I guess it was in October of 2020, when we decided that the company was going to dissolve. I legally and ethically could not share that information with everyone. And this was on the advice of the lawyers. There were certain things ducks we had to put in a row legally.
And I'll just put a pin in the fact that for our viewers, part of the arts organizations at a Crossroads Toolkit involves a section on the legal and HR issues around dissolution. So how to make some decisions, but if that ultimately is the best choice, you can refer to that for a lot of good guidance on what those steps are, and use a lawyer. This is not a DIY process.
Definitely. Definitely.
So just that. So please go ahead, Betsy.
So let me see. So which of your questions have I not?
So you've gotten to the point of you decided that you needed to close.
Right.
And I think one of the most important things that we wanted to hear from you about is the fact that you stuck it out. You didn't just, put a lid on some banker's boxes and leave the studio and go home. You, went through a process that involved sharing your assets, ensuring that the idea of new work was going to live on, and you created an archive with the Library of Congress. So if you can kind of break those pieces up for us a little bit, including like, how did you get into the Library of Congress? Because not every company.
No, it's not.
Have that.
Sure. So actually the advice about preserving the work came out of that Dodge Foundation executive directors meetings. One of my colleagues said, you should archive your work. It wasn't automatically the Library of Congress, but you should preserve your work. And so it started me thinking, and I went to the board and I said, I'd like to call the Library of Congress. I'd like to call Lincoln Center Library for the Performing Arts. I don't know if they're even interested. And they were like, do it, So believe it or not, I emailed the Library of Congress, and Libby Smigel, who's the dance specialist, emailed me back within 24 hours. I was like, and she said, I've heard about the company. I know about your work. We'd be honored to have you fully archived in the Library of Congress. And so I told this to a dance critic who I also spoke with during the process, who was very fond of the company and was really a good friend, brutally honest in his criticism, but a very good friend of the company. And he said, I called to tell him, well, Robert, you've been so terrific and such a good friend and so helpful to us, but I have some bad news. He's like, don't tell me. And I said, no. It's the best thing. We're dissolving. But the good news is we're going to be archived in the Library of Congress. And he said, well, great. Won't that just be your tombstone? I was like, gee, thanks, Robert, But he was actually interviewed for the archive. So that worked out fine. But
and we do have a companion interview in this series with Beth Cattleman, who is a professional archivist, and it will tell you all about how to find an archive. It might not be the Library of Congress, but there will be a home that will want your records. So check that out. Whether you're closing or not, have a look at that interview. But
right, there might be a university with a dance department or a theater department or whatever, visual arts department. But this seemed like the most natural fit, and we were thrilled. And I never did hear back from the Library of Performing Arts, so at Lincoln Center, so I guess they weren't interested. So meanwhile, during all this time, I was unpaid, and then I was hired back we hired a historian who was terrific, who was recommended by Libby, and started to, I continued until January 31st, and I was reinstated and paid for that part of the project. to help to do the archive. And yeah, and so everything's in the Library of Congress, all the documentation, all the videos, all the photos, our website. They actually, there's a term for it, not mine. They crawl to get, and they get the website. Of course, it's frozen in time, but so yeah, it was very interesting going through that process, Molly, because in a way it allowed me to grieve for the loss of the company, but also it allowed me, we're also every day just pushing ahead. When's the next booking? I have to write that grant. I have to call that board member back. I have to do that rehearsal. You know, we're all so caught up in just the building. We do not take the opportunity very often to pause and reflect and see what we've really achieved. And I was able to go back and look at the work that we created and the artists that we helped to mature into these amazing male dancers, and the choreographers and the musicians and the costume designers and the lighting designers that we worked with. And it was like, damn, we did all that in 8.5 years. That's incredible. So that was kind of what the archiving process did for me. It made me feel proud of what we had accomplished, while before I had just felt completely sad that it went away.
Right. I mean, I think that's, such the point, is that just because it ended didn't mean that all of that time and work and growth and sharing didn't exist, and also through your, generosity and your time, now it still exists. And a lot of us can share in that, even though it's not living anymore. So I think that's a really important point to make. So thank you.
Well,
and then you all also provided some of your remaining financial assets to make sure that new work would continue to be created. Is that right?
That's correct. According to federal law, you have to, if you have any funds remaining, which we did, you have to grant them to another nonprofit whose mission is somewhat close to your own. And there are no other all-male repertory dance companies in the state of New Jersey. So that was not an option. But there is an organization called Dance on the Lawn that has an emerging choreographer award and helps young up-and-coming choreographers to craft their work, and then provides a showcase for them to the public. So we were able to grant those funds to them. So at least will help with the continuation of the creation of new work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's lovely. And I'll just add too, for other organizations that might be reading or viewing this, that there are, if you have other assets that might serve the community, equipment, libraries, instruments, that kind of thing, also consider finding homes for that. And sometimes your local arts council or your state arts council might be able to match make there if you need that. So want to keep those things in the community.
Can I say
know.
one last thing about the archiving?
Oh yes, please.
Considering the strength of the focus on dance education as well as dance performance and creating new work and supporting artists, I'm just so happy that it's in the Library of Congress, because I want people to be able to go in and they can mine through the documents if they have the patience, as well as, of course, please look at the videos and the photos. They're incredible. But I want them to learn from what we did right and also from what we did wrong. So it makes me very happy that we'll be able to educate current and future generations of dance artists.
Yeah, that's lovely and generous as well. And I know that after you kind of move through this process, that there is the letting go is difficult because as you have talked about, you came into this work, as many of us did, because of our passion for the work, and it's difficult to get a little distant. So can you share a little bit about why you think that's important, even though it's difficult?
Right. Yeah. When you're in a leadership role in an organization, it's important, as you mentioned, that you always hold on to what the passion is that brought you there to begin with. But the best service that you can do for the health of that organization is to kind of pull yourself up to 30,000 feet as much as possible and look down and see what your weaknesses are and be honest about them and address them, even if it makes people feel uncomfortable. I feel if there hadn't been any COVID issues, even if Randy had stepped down, we would have made it through. We would have figured it out. It was such a confluence of events, and they immediately went to, it was like the virus itself, it immediately goes to a person's weaknesses in their health.
Right.
And, the board members not being quite as visionary, passionate, and optimistic as I would have hoped. And I'm not faulting them. One particular board member actually contracted COVID. She's fine. But it got completely skewed. The personal, the professional, the fear, the anxiety. And I respect the fact that they had the passion for the organization, but it's unfortunate that they weren't able to channel it into belief and action. There was a lot of defeatism that happened. There's just too many strikes against us. And one of the things that you and I emailed about is that philosophy and visual about the four-legged stool.
Yes, talk about that. That was new to me.
Okay. Well, you have your artistic product, which is the seat of the stool, and you have the administration and the finances and the infrastructure and the organization. And then you have the leadership, which is the board. Okay, that's three. Now I'm trying to think of the fourth one.
What struck me, because it was governance, management, I think, artistic, and administrative infrastructure. Actually, hang on, because I pulled it up before this call because I thought it was so interesting. And we will put this slide in this recording so people can see it. Give me just a moment. I can.
Well, while you're looking,
here we go. Oh, here we go. Organizational capacity. It is healthy organizations have table legs solid enough to support and sustain mission and programs. So you have the artistic product, management, governance, financial resources, and administrative systems, and which to me is infrastructure, which is the piece that we don't always talk about.
Right. So we were basically down to 1.5 legs. We had the dancers who throughout this entire thing had remained devoted and wanted the company to continue and believed that it could, because it was an all-male repertory company, and because of our reputation in the field, our relationships built up with other artists and presenting and organizations and funders. And there was me. The finance director said, I've got too much going on in my life. I have 3 kids. I'm a full-time teacher. I can't do this anymore. It wound up that the president of the board stepped aside at the very end, and 2 other board members became co-presidents, and we were literally left with 5 board members who said that they would stay on, but it was kind of up to me. Did I think that I could do it? And I took a really long weekend and I said, you know what, I can't do it. I can't, I need the partner. I need, it's, so that was the final, but 1.5 legs, we were down to 1.5 legs. So yeah, so we knew what our weaknesses were. We knew that not having the real succession plan and the finances to back up paying what an artistic director of the caliber that we needed. And then we didn't have another plan. What if we don't have an artistic director and we do a project-based thing? Which actually, really could have worked. Hire a choreographer just to run that. It would have been interesting. And we were starting to lose our infrastructure, and we had lost board confidence. So it was just, it was time to let it go.
Yeah. Well, again, I want to, first of all, is there anything that I haven't asked you about, Betsy? I mean, I think that you're sharing these leadership lessons so clearly that you learned, look at your vulnerabilities. Don't be afraid to talk about them out loud. That actually gives you power if you recognize your weaknesses, because then you can do something about it. Taking some of the personal out of it, because that getting that clarity allows you to make better decisions. That it's better to do planning and make some of those backup plans ahead of time, because when you're in crisis, you're not making the best decisions.
Right.
And then, when you have to make the decision, making the best of the decision you had to come to, which is, as I see it, after bringing these new dances into the world, bringing these dancers up, and the fact that now they're out there creating and performing all over the place, was the gift that the company gave, and now you're able to share that story with the rest of us, and so all of that is really appreciated. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I have one last little word of warning that or of advice, I should say, that I shared with my Dance USA colleagues when I spoke with them about my experience, which is beware the cult of personality. Every arts organization that has an artistic director knows that person, you want somebody who's charismatic. You want somebody who can speak to funders and speak to the smallest child who comes to the Nutcracker performance. You want a Pied Piper. But when there's an imbalance in that, and then that goes away, it's crushing. It's crushing. And there needs to be a really important balance.
Yes. Thank you. And the importance, I think, of networks and being able to share and gain advice and wisdom and support as well. So I hope we all take that from this experience as well. So, well, Betsy, again, I can't thank you enough for your eloquence and your candor, and we'll look forward to sharing your story, and check out those archives at Library of Congress. It's such a remarkable and unique company. So and you can still enjoy the work. So thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Molly, and good luck to everyone. And if you ever need to reach me, you want to speak to me personally about it, you have a question, I'm doing consulting now. I don't know if you want to throw that in.
I will. Yes, we'll put your contact information available for folks.
I'm happy to chat. Anything that helps to make the field stronger is the most important thing.
Well, thank you. It's just been a pleasure to talk to and get to know you a little bit. So I appreciate that. And our timeline is that the toolkit is going to be launching in early September. And then the webinar, the first educational webinar, will be in late September. So again, we'll intersperse some of these interviews into that. And then the articles are going to roll out over between late September and November to kind of build awareness and momentum. So I'll let you know where you fall in that schedule. But I also really appreciate your suggestion. I will give folks at Dance USA and TCG and APEP too, I think, a call and just have a one-on-one about these resources that we're bringing in, and because they, we're promoting what they do, but they can also really help spread the word for us. So
Right. There's one other
advice.
graphic that's, maybe you already have it. It's the 4 quadrants.
Oh, the Steve Covey, yes.
Yeah.
The
So-
urgent and important.
Right.
Yes, that's a good one to share.
And then I'm sure I don't know if you want to, but you could do, the, what's her name? Stevens. I have the book. I can run and get it. The life cycles. You know,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple of graphics that some are better than others on that, but
It's Susan Kenny. Susan Kenny. Here, let me run and get the book.
oh, thanks, Betsy.
Can you see it?
Nice.
Susan Kenny Stevens, nonprofit life cycles. Stage-based wisdom for nonprofit capacity.
Okay. Do you know who published it?
Stage-wise Enterprises, Long Lake, Minnesota. I found it online. I mean, I don't think even Amazon had it. It's too obscure.
That might be out of print, but okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's not a resource I've seen before. So
I'm looking for, oh, here we go. See, can you see this?
okay, yes, I do have that in a slide somewhere. Yes,
Good.
that's a good one. We'll make sure that it's credited appropriately.
Yeah, Susan Kenny Stevens. And guess what? It's cataloged in the Library of Congress, this book.
Okay, you're in good company.
All right. Well, thanks so much. If you have any other questions or there's anything where I said too many ums or uhs or whatever that you need me to redo, or that sounded really stupid, just edit it out.
Yeah, no,
Very
you
good.
sounded great, although I will do some trimming, but
Yeah.
this was terrific. So yeah, thank you. And I'll keep in touch as this rolls out. So, and
All right.
take good care. And I've got your contact information about your consulting too. So I'll
Oh, that'd
share
be
that
great.
where I can. Yeah.
That'd be very helpful.
Okay.
All right. Have a wonderful
Great.
weekend. Stay
You
dry.
too. Yes, you too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Betsy.